Hello everyone, welcome back to the boudoir. I don't even know why I'm using this because I broke my microphone, y'all. Like literally 2 seconds before I press this record button. Okay, I broke my microphone. Unfortunately, we're gonna have poopy camera audio for the foreseeable future until I can either get a new microphone or get a new cord. Let's talk about nosy people. Let's talk about those nosy people that we just can't get out of our faces, that love to ask us questions we don't want to answer. I asked you guys on my community tab what you wanted to talk about this week on the boudoir, and overwhelmingly you guys wanted to know how to get rid of these nosy nosies, okay? And I feel you because I hate nosiness. I'm a Scorpio moon and rising. I'm a very private person. I like to be like this in my house, you know, away from the noise. So I get it. I don't like to deal with nosy people either. Nobody wants to constantly have to answer a bunch of questions from people who are just trying to get their little intel and figure out what you got going on in your life. Like, nobody wants that. So we're gonna talk about some of the ways we can deal with nosy people, some of the tactics you can use in different situations where you might come across nosy people, and when it might be okay to lie. So if you're interested in that, definitely make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're listening to me on Spotify and Apple. Get to know your girl. We have a lot of fun over here on the boudoir, and our lovely community is called the Boudoir Babes. So if you would like to join and be a part of that, definitely subscribe. All you gotta do is interact with us, hang out with us every Tuesday, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. Easiest job ever, right? So look, everybody is not out to get you, right? We know that. Everybody is not out here trying to prey on your downfall. Everybody is not out here trying to just peek their little nose into your business. Some people are genuinely just curious. If you're a little on the awkward side, or if you just struggle with socializing, you might just ask questions just for the sake of keeping the conversation going, right? Like, have you ever felt yourself getting to like a dead point in the conversation and you kind of just don't know how to keep it going, so you just pick out any random question out of thin air? It's not that you're necessarily trying to fish for information, but you're literally just like, okay, what else do I do? This seems right. Is this the right choice? So all forms of questioning are not nosiness. However, you are the decider of what questions you want to answer. So it's very important for you to figure out what types of things you're comfortable with sharing and what type of things you want to keep to yourself. That way, when you are in certain social situations, you'll know what is like uncomfortable for you and what's more like, you know what, I don't mind talking about this. Some people are just simply gossips though, and literally just want to know what you got going on in your life so that they can like run and tell their little minions and talk behind your back. Or they're simply just boring and they don't have much going on in their life, so they have to use your life as their reality TV show. You are their Real Housewives, you're their Jersey Shore. Now listen, I love some tea just like the next person. I'm not too good to hear a little gossip. Something I've learned, and maybe you might have heard this in the recent years, is that gossip is actually necessary in community, and that's how you learn your pet peeves, things you like and don't like. Learn things about your friends. You learn the types of things that you're willing to put up with, your boundaries. It's a way of sharing information throughout the community. And a lot of the times gossiping, because it's more of like a woman thing, it's seen as negative. But that doesn't mean we should just be sitting around and talking about people and just, you know, being snakish. That's not cool. So yes, there are those people that literally just want to like eat their little imaginary popcorn while you tell them all about your 15th breakup this year, and they're gonna act like, oh, that's so sad, but keep it coming, girl, tell me more about those stories and, you know, all of the hijinks you got up to, because they're bored. That's where they get their entertainment from. Now, other reasons why people might ask you a lot of questions can be in some dangerous situations, and this is when I want to talk about when is it okay to lie? Because we're just taught as a blanket statement, right? It's not okay to lie. You should always tell the truth. I don't think that we can just make that blanket statement. I think it is perfectly okay to lie sometimes, and I will tell you when it's okay to lie. Let's start with the most extreme form of nosiness, and that is when men ask you a bunch of really creepy personal questions that they should not be asking. We're gonna talk about these men real quick because I don't like to talk about men on my page because this is a girls only space and the gays and the days, but like this is for the girls, okay? So we're gonna make this quick. Some men get really comfortable and they feel like they can ask a random stranger off the street, what's your phone number? Are you single? And do you have a boyfriend? And like asking a stranger these questions that they would never ask a male stranger. But no, they see you minding your business in public, they see you reading at the park, they see you just simply minding your own business, and they think they can just come up to you and ask you these questions. And of course, because these people have the emotional intelligence of children, if you dare to say no, You know, they could get a little violent, sadly. And so that makes you feel like you have to answer these questions, and it's so sad. Now, it's one thing to see somebody out in public you think is attractive and you want to build up a connection with them. I still feel like you should at least try to talk to them for a little bit, like 10-15 minutes, have some sort of like connection and conversation before you just ask somebody their personal information like that. Again, everybody wasn't brought up with home training, so not everybody behaves that way, but it would be different if you asked for the number then. Even then, you still don't have to give it to them, but sometimes they'll just ask these questions, and a lot of the times it's to gauge how much information you're willing to give up. Are you somebody that can hold firm boundaries and say, hey, I don't want to answer this, or I don't know you like that? Or are you somebody that's just gonna give out personal details, tell them where you're going, tell them where you live? Oh, I go on a walk at this park every single day at 8 a.m. and just like sharing a bunch of things. That's a lot of the reasons why they will ask so many questions, just to see how far they can get. It's kind of sinister. Not even kind of, it's very sinister. Like for me, I've had times where I've been in Ubers and male drivers will literally ask me like, what floor do you live on? And it's not always sinister. Like sometimes it can literally just be like an innocent question, but at the same time, like you have to recognize and have situational awareness. Like if I'm in a car with a stranger, you should not be asking me these types of questions. You should be driving me to my destination and that's it. The most deep conversations you should be having in an Uber is like, do you prefer rainy weather or sunny weather? Like that's it. We should not be asking people what floors they live on. You know, do you live with somebody? Do you live alone? Weird questions that you should not be asking anyone. So don't ever feel bad if you have to lie for safety reasons. Like if a man is asking you way too many questions and you don't feel comfortable, feel free to lie. Say you're married and you have 10 kids and you're not interested in a conversation right now because you have to go change little Timmy's diaper right now. Who cares? Like, you owe these people no loyalty, especially when they're strangers. You can lie. You never tell somebody, and these are like basic things that you guys already know, but you know, let's just put a little public safety announcement out there. You should never tell anybody you live alone. Always say you got 3 burly brothers who are in wrestling and can do a mean takedown or whatever. You have people that are checking on you and are waiting for you to get to your destination. These days, these people are just so emotionally immature and unpredictable. You have to protect yourself any way you can, sadly. And I hate that we even have to live this way, because by doing that, you're enforcing their poor behavior. To me, it's putting a band-aid on the issue, because if we continue to just be like, oh no, here's my number, even though I don't want to give it to you, but I don't want to be ended today, so let me just give it. I think that's a band-aid, but at the same time, your life is more important than proving a point, but it just sucks that we have to do that. Rant over. Now, not as serious, but still definitely something we need to talk about. You gotta lie to protect your plans sometimes, okay? Some people are truly monitoring spirits, and they only hang around with you to get the recipe, to figure out your next move, to figure out the sauce, to figure out how they can extort whatever information and just use and take and study and siphon and steal your energy. These people exist, sadly. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And if you've ever wanted to tell if you have a monitoring spirit around you, a lot of the time they're gonna ask questions like, how did you? Where did you? How did you get that? Where did you go to get that done? How much was that? How did you afford that? But didn't you just take that vacation? How'd you buy that? All of these, it's like a lot of like tally taking and like studying going on. If it feels like somebody has their little detective goggles and you're like sitting at a precinct somewhere and they're like building up a case file against you and like probing you for questions, they're probably a monitoring spirit. And of course, we have to do the whole nuance thing, right? Everybody that's asking questions is not a monitoring spirit. And this is one of those things where you'll know if you feel it. And this is when you have to start leaning into your intuition. Because if it feels like I said, somebody's like taking notes and like tallying up all of these answers, and it feels like you're just feeding them information for the New York Times for them to write an article about you, and it doesn't feel like a conversation. The difference between somebody who's just genuinely curious and who wants to know, they'll either give context as to why they're asking, like, I saw you just started this marketing project and I actually wanted to get started in marketing. Do you have any contacts? Like, that's different from, so what are you doing? Who are you going with? But I saw on your Instagram page that I didn't like. I saw the picture, but I didn't like it. But I saw you were with this person. So there's a difference, and you'll know you'll feel it. Your intuition is going to tell you if it feels snaky, if it feels slimy, or if it's somebody just genuinely trying to connect with you and understand. And the conversation is always going to be one-sided. It's always going to be you giving up information, but they're just listening. They're not, you know, sharing anything about themselves. They're not saying, oh, okay, I listened to your answer and then here's my answer too. It's not an even exchange. It's just one person giving a whole lot of information and the other just kind of taking it and doing something with it that you don't know, but they're monitoring you. Monitoring spirit. And we mentioned social media. A lot of times people will talk about monitoring spirits in the context of social media, especially things like Instagram, where you'll see people on your stories, you know, posted up trying to clickety click, see what's going on in your life. But when it comes time to the pictures on your feed, the reels on your feed, it's silent, it's desolate. And yeah, you know, the algorithms. But if you're somebody who takes social media seriously and those types of things matter to you, you know, if the happy birthday posts matter to you, the likes and the comments matter to you, and somebody's purposely withholding that even though they know you're trying to grow, something to think about. And hey, social media is not that important to everybody, so that's something that's gonna be on a case-by-case basis. But if it does mean something to you, I don't know, there's just something to be said about a friend just literally scrolling past your post. I'm not saying you have to like every single post, because like you literally don't have to. But if it's something that means a lot to you and you notice that they're not doing that, but they're liking everybody else's thing, if you don't get congratulations, if it seems forced, if it feels like they have to like force themselves to say, oh, I'm so happy for you. That's another thing. Watch out for that, like, oh, you're so lucky, I wish I could be like that, oh, must be nice. Ooh, the must be nice is the biggest one. Watch out for that must be nice. Must be nice to have that. Girl, they are envying you. Okay. And again, context matters. I will always say that. We can't just, you know, put blanket statements, but I'm just saying, follow your intuition. These things would have to be coupled with other behaviors. So it's not like you're just going to take this and run with it and decide that your friend's like out to get you, but it would have to be this behavior coupled with other behaviors. If you're noticing patterns across the board, that friend is probably not your true friend. We'll have to do a video on that someday, like how to tell if your friend's not a true friend. You know, always a fun topic. And when it comes to sharing your plans, you want to be careful with who you share them with, because some people can place seeds of doubt in your plan. Let's say you have this big fancy plan to start a business and you're telling somebody, oh my god, I'm gonna start this X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 blah. This has happened to me before. You'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do it like this, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. You're so excited, you're like talking 50,000 miles a minute, and then the person is like, oh wait, but how are you gonna do that? Isn't that gonna be kind of hard to da-da-da-da? Isn't that gonna be a little, oh wait, but didn't you say you were gonna? And then all of a sudden now you're like, wait, maybe they're right, maybe I shouldn't do this. Oh, maybe my plan is weird. Oh, maybe it's already oversaturated. Like, watch out for that. Okay, because some people, whether it's intentional or not, some people don't even realize the types of like doubts that they can plant onto people with their words. You know, if you want to travel to a country that is very far, or if it's like expensive and people are like, oh, how are you gonna pay for that? Oh, I heard that you know, in the winter it's like this and no. It's not always intentional, but it can make you second guess yourself, make you get cold feet from wanting to actually travel to that place. But you just have to trust yourself. Don't let anybody talk you out of something you already said you were going to do. Again, that's why you don't have to share everything with everybody, and you shouldn't. And we talked about this way back in episode 2 on the Boudoir. We talked about oversharing and why, you know, you shouldn't talk about your plans with some people because they may unintentionally make you doubt yourself, or even just the dopamine of telling somebody your plan will make you feel like you accomplished something when you didn't actually do it. And because you're getting the, wow, that's so cool, you did such a great job, that's such an awesome idea, you already feel like you already did it because you got the accolades, you got the congratulations. So in some cases, telling people your ideas too soon can give you kind of like the satisfaction of you already doing it because you got the external praise. So just keep that in mind. If you have an idea that's very, very fresh, think about it. If you just found out you were pregnant, you're not gonna run and tell the whole world because like you wanna keep that moment precious between you and the baby and whoever you had the baby with. You wanna preserve and protect that little thing and just let it grow naturally on its own. And then when you're comfortable and confident confident, that's when you can share the exciting news. You gotta let it breathe a little bit. You gotta let it like develop. You feel me? Trust me, I get it. I love to talk. I'm a yapper. Like, especially when it comes to things I'm passionate about, I love to share my ideas with people. That's literally what gets me going. But then I learned along the way, like, you can't be telling everybody everything. Like, nobody's gonna see your vision the way you are anyway, so you might as well just keep it to yourself. Nobody is going to share that zest and that excitement for your plan the same way you would. And then you just have people that are just generally nosy people. You know, the people, the aunties that'll be like, oh, you're still single? Why are you still single? You're 30, you're not gonna have kids yet? Like, what's going on? What do you do for a living? Those types of, you know, just typical nosy questions. And everyone's going to have a different barometer of what questions are considered inappropriate or too probing, especially based on your culture or your nationality. Some questions are gonna be seen as more rude than others depending on where you are. So it's up for you to decide. But in general, typically questions about what's your nationality, what's your race, what's your age, your weight, what do you do for a living, these types of questions can be considered inappropriate depending on where you are. And sometimes people will ask questions to underhandedly kind of place you on their respect barometer. So somebody's gonna ask you what you do for a living, and when you say you're a lawyer, they're gonna look at you like you're way up here, like you're so intelligent. Whereas if you said I'm a grocery store cashier, they might place you on a different respect barometer. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's fair, I'm just saying this is how people and humans operate. We like to categorize things to make them make sense, whether it's the objective truth or not. Some people see marriage as a status symbol and as a claim to fame, so to speak. So some people might ask if you're single, and if you are, they might think that you're less credible or less desirable somehow, some way than a married person. Even some parents will judge non-parents for speaking on certain topics because they'll say, how can you speak on this if you have no kids? People will ask you questions sometimes to place you in certain categories and certain boxes. And some questions are just cover-ups for real questions. A lot of people will ask like, oh, what do you do for a living? And for some people, it just might be a harmless question like, oh, I'm just curious, what do you do for work? But to me, and to a lot of other people, I think that that can be seen as like, oh, how much money do you make? How much money are you pulling in? It's a way to gauge how much money you got. I've even had people ask me like how much my rent is, and I just think those types of questions are so rude depending on the situation. Like if I'm talking to a fellow Chicago person and we're talking about apartments or neighborhoods and the conversation about rent comes up, that's different. But like somebody just asking just to like, you know, figure out what you got going on in your bank account, I think that's rude and I think that's weird. So let's talk about some of the things we can do when we get some weird questions we don't want to answer. Number one way to deal with nosy questions is to come up with a couple of canned responses to have on the ready. I think this is especially great if you're going through something that's still a little heavy for you. For example, maybe you're going through a loss, a breakup, a divorce, even a job loss. And a lot of people, you know, you're having to relay the story over and over and over and over again, and people are asking the same questions and you're getting tired of answering them and you're tired of dwelling on it. So you can just come up with a couple of canned responses just to get people to kind of shut up and get out of your face. For example, oh, how have you been since you and Kevin broke up? Oh. Instead of going into detail about, you know, how you're feeling, unless you want to, unless the person that's asking is like truly asking because they care. But if they're just asking out of nosiness, you can just be like, you know what, I'm just taking it a day at a time, but you know what, I'm great, I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling very positive. And then hopefully that just gets them off your back, you know? Whether it's true or it's not true, it's just something that gets the people off of your back, off of your case, and hopefully that's good enough for them. That way you don't have to keep putting more emotional stress on yourself. You can just have the pre-planned answer already laid out for you and you're good to go. Again, number two is to lie. I'm gonna keep saying it. It's okay to lie sometimes, especially if it's with people that you're gonna have to see a lot, like you're gonna have to interact with a lot, i.e. coworkers, i.e. you know, people you go to school with, people you're gonna have to interact with a lot. Lie. You can also either answer part of the question or redirect the question back to them somehow. I'm gonna give you an example. Let's pretend you got that good old-fashioned boomer question, oh, you're 29, you're 30, you're however old you are, and you don't have kids? Oh, the horror. What are we gonna do? How is the earth gonna keep on spinning? Why? Why don't you have kids? And this is like the 900th time your aunt has asked you that question, right? You can say something like, Oh, you know what? I actually haven't given that much thought yet, but I'd actually love to hear your experience on having kids and what that's been like for you. If you squint your eye a little bit, there's like a little bit of like shade and like spice in that, because it's like, if your kids are so darn great, why don't you tell me about them? Why do you keep pushing that on me, Susan? But also, it's a good way to kind of get the attention off of you. People love to talk about themselves, so if they really do love their kids that much, they will go on and on and on about their children, and you will be taken out of the hot seat. Good old redirection. And now let's say you tried to lie. You tried to redirect. You tried to just, politely decline from answering, and they still won't stop pestering you. We're gonna have to pull out the boundaries. I didn't want to have to do this. But now I gotta pull out the boundaries on you, okay? And I gotta tell you, I don't like to talk about this at work. I don't like to talk about this. I don't want to answer that. I would really appreciate it if we didn't talk about this here. I don't really like to talk about these things. And you gotta be the strict one. Nobody likes to do it. Come on. Nobody likes to, make things a little uncomfortable and tense, but somebody's gotta do it, right? You're either gonna keep hearing these questions, you're gonna have to keep, lying to these people's face, you're gonna have to keep, coming out with these little canned responses, or you're just gonna have to politely say, you know what, I can't. I don't like to talk about this. I don't do these things. I don't go there. I don't do this. That's not who I am. This is what I do. Take it or leave it. And that would be the true test of who truly respects you and who is just out here trying to extort information from you or use it for nefarious purposes. That is the true tell. We're a little crooked, but we're back. My camera was full. Everything else we mentioned before, that can be given the benefit of the doubt. But then after a certain point, if somebody notices that you're visibly uncomfortable talking about these things, even after you've given, gentle, polite hints, they still can't take the hint. Sometimes you just gotta unload the boundary clip on them. And they'll either be receptive to that or they'll move on to somebody else, try to extort information from them. But at least they're not extorting information from you, right? And that's how I would deal with nosy people. Did I miss anything? Do you have any other tips that you can leave for your fellow babes in the comments down below? Please let us know. But don't be scared to advocate for yourself. If you feel like you have to set boundaries to somebody, especially with people you're gonna have to talk to daily, whether that's family, friends, or coworkers, just let them know and their response will be telling. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, definitely make sure you rate me 5 stars, subscribe, like, do all of the things, download the audio version for later at work when you're bored, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye!